Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Now, the first version of this deck was extremely popular. It kind of amazed me. I was pretty sure it would be somewhat well received, especially after the performance I had with it, but I actually had a lot of people, proportionally, not a lot overall, but a lot of people were like, there's no way this deck's good, you got lucky. And I had secondhand accounts from like people I know that their friends watched the video and they were like, he just played against Bruise. He's not good at this game. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure this deck's good. So, what did we do for the second version here? So for the second version, I have made a number of changes. I reduced the fun ofs in the main board. I'm not going to meme as hard this time. I'm going to keep some of the stuff I really liked, but I have swapped up a few things. So the first big change is collector brutality. One of the things that I've noticed in independent testing with this deck is that if you get rid of your resources too quickly, you may not have the top decks to recover. So an example of this is Collective Brutality. Collective Brutality, the Escalate discard a card. We don't tend to use our own graveyard. We're sort of immune to grave hate in a way. And because of that, we're just literally discarding cards that could otherwise be very valuable. If you're Collective Brutality and you're up against Burn and you're duressing, you're killing a creature and you're draining your opponent life. And so you take like a lightning bolt from them, you kill their Goblin Guide, and then you drain them for 2. That's a huge swing and might buy you a turn. It might buy you 2 turns. But if you don't draw anything in those 2 turns, those cards that you discarded may have been more value than the modes that you picked. And this is a problem that I've run into. I don't want to cut Collective Brutality entirely. I definitely want to keep it in the deck as a one-of, at least, because it does everything this deck wants to do, and versus aggressive decks it is very strong. But it is an example of one of the weaknesses I found with this deck. So I dumped 1 Collective Brutality, and I've gone up to 4 Erebos' Intervention. I think this card we need to be running 4 of. Against aggressive decks, against graveyard decks, it's fantastic. To go along with the Collective Brutality cut, I also got rid of Liliana of the Veil. She's incredibly powerful, a fantastic planeswalker, and I don't think anybody will argue with me on that. I don't think she belongs in this deck for the same reason that I took Collective Brutality out. We don't have the extra cards to be discarding. We're trying to kind of like 1-for-1 or 2-for-1 frequently, and us discarding cards feels really terrible. So if we were using the graveyard, if we had better ways to utilize the graveyard, if we had more spells with flashback than just increasing ambition, or if we had creatures that would reanimate themselves as a consistent source of damage like Bloodghast or something, then Liliana of the Veil absolutely would fit in a deck like this. But because we can't buy back lands, and because we can't buy back anything else, I have removed it from the current list, and I think I put the other Erebos' Intervention instead of it. I cut Professor Onyx, because Professor Onyx basically functions as a 6-mana Phyrexian Arena with the upside of like draining your opponent. It is some life gain. And I cut another threat of some kind, and I don't remember what it was. But I've gone up to 2 Masterminds acquisition. And my thought process on this is, there were a bunch of times where we would top deck individual threats that weren't good, and this deck, more than any other, has the ability to abuse black strong tutor effects. And so I think having a second Masterminds acquisition, because there were a few times where we had to like Masterminds acquisition for a Damnation out of the sideboard, and then weren't able to Masterminds acquisition for a threat later. We would just draw more removal and then it wouldn't be good. I think having 2 of this effect is very powerful. I'm still keeping the 1 increasing ambition. Oh, I cut a piece of removal I didn't like, I thought, in the 2 or 3 drop slot as well. I just made these changes and I can't remember them. So as a new threat that I think is actually going to support what we're doing here, we're playing Obnixilis Reignited. He's kind of a 5-mana Phyrexian Arena or Bloodgift Demon effect. But he really will help carry us into the late game. I found that frequently I just want my Planeswalkers to draw me cards, and he's going to do that. In addition, sometimes he'll just be a kill spell, and that will be fine. He'll support all of the other removal spells that we have. His ult does win the game eventually. It's not fantastic, but the fact that he can immediately protect himself and draw you cards is pretty fantastic, and I'm playing 2 of him just because like I want to be able to carry into the late game and generate a huge amount of value. I'm keeping Liliana Dreadhorde General for now. I really, really like the Barter in Blood effect on the Planeswalker. The fact that you can use it immediately. She generates a huge amount of value just making tokens. Really, this could be anything. It could be a second Wormcoil engine, but a lot of people were complaining about you're playing too many singletons. But it has merits in doing so. We're playing hard tutors, so we can get whatever threat wins us the game, or is the best answer to what our opponent is doing, if we have diversified answers and threats, which is very important to me. And we have a couple of single powerful effects that those hard tutors can also act as redundant copies of. So, Worst Fears is not amazing. It has been amazing every time I've cast it, but that's not my point. It's not amazing all the time. But when we need it, we can go get it. And maybe Worst Fears needs to be in the sideboard, and then we need a Masterminds acquisition for it. But I like the ability to top deck this occasionally. And as a singleton, it feels like it's just about right. And so out of the sideboard, I've cut a lot of the Grave Hate that I was running, because it just didn't make sense, like Crypt Incursion and stuff like that. I kept the Surgicals, I kept the Cling to Dust, and I kept the Nile Spellbomb. I've got the Damnations in the sideboard because I don't think we're going to run into enough creature decks that we need them in the main deck, especially when we have so many kill spells and hand hate already in the main deck. We should be able to contend with most creature decks, other than like the spammiest of creature decks, and that's why we have them in the sideboard. I moved Torment of Hailfire to the side because Consume Spirit does mostly what this card does. However, Consume Spirit can also be used early as a way to gain life, kind of as Erebos' Intervention number 4.5, if that makes sense, but it can still go face if we need it to. Torment of Hailfire is a more efficient black fireball in a lot of situations, and it kills my opponent a lot easier and with a lot less mana than Consume Spirit would. So that's why I'm leaving it as a Masterminds acquisition target, for when we already have a huge amount of mana and we just need to end the game in one spell. That's what it's for. And so I think it's fair. Versus control decks, we can bring in Gonti because we're not gonna need 20 kill spells. We can run 19 and have one more threat versus control. I think it's fine. There's also situations where this card is going to be good against mid-range decks. We can just get one of their value spells, play Gonti, block a creature. He's got Death Touch. We still get the spell. It's pretty fantastic. Versus aggressive decks, I'm actually considering bringing in Dread Presence, because one of the problems is we don't gain enough life, and Dread Presence gives us a way to cash in all the extra lands we're playing. So like if our opponent is completely out of resources, we can draw extra cards. If they have threats, we can snipe their threats. If we need to deal damage, we can deal damage. We're still gaining life the whole way. I think it might actually deserve a spot in the main deck, depending. Like I said, a deck like this hasn't existed in Modern before, and it also is going to be metagame dependent, so we need to see what threats, what value engines are going to be the best to play in a format like this. And to be honest, I don't know if I've made this deck better or worse than it is. This is just my best approximation of what changes we can make based on, where the deck felt weak. I also have Kalitas, Trader of Get, which is a 4-mana 3/4 lifelink that has value if your opponent's creatures die. I'll bring this in versus aggro because I just want more life gain, basically. Like, we have enough kill spells to answer threats. The problem is when we go against mono red burn and we've answered all the threats, and then our opponent keeps top decking bolts because we can't kill spell bolts. That's really the problem. And then, of course, Emrakul, Mastermind's acquisition target. Still staying there because it absolutely will win if we ever cast it. And with all of that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and see you guys in round 1. All right. We will be on the play for round 1, and I'm going to keep this. We can Expedition map for an Urborg. We have a Dismember. We have a Tutor. This seems like a good hand. So lead on Swamp, play Expedition map, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Raugrin Triome. Alright, I suspect my opponent is playing some kind of control, and I don't have an Urborg yet, so what I'm going to do is play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. They play a Wooded Foothills. So let's stop on their end step and go Scrying. Tribute to Hunger to the bottom. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize. So let's go ahead and get an Urborg. Play it, and Thoughtseize our opponent. The reason I did it like this is because I don't want my opponent to know the rest of my hand. I would rather keep as much of it secret for as long as I can. Opponent fetches up a basic forest. They respond with a growth spiral. Okay, so I anticipate this is going to be some kind of Bring to Light deck, maybe. Ah, Shardless Agent, Bring to Light. See the Truth. Fire and Ice. So they're playing a bunch of spells. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead. I see. So this is their Cascade spell of choice. So they're going to be a heavy value deck, which is going to be kind of hard for us to beat, I think. I think we take Bring to Light from them. It makes their next play a little bit more obvious as to what they're supposed to be doing. They're going to have 4 mana. Yeah, let's take Bring to Light. They play a Dryad. They play a Sacred Foundry and a Misty Rainforest. And it looks like they're leaving up Fire and Ice. Oh, they're going to cast See the Truth from their hand, okay? That's fine. Alright, let's stop on their end step. Scry. Erebos' Intervention. I do have a Cabal Coffers. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have 5 mana. I think I will keep the Erebos' Intervention for now. What I'm going to end up doing here is I think I'm going to Mastermind's Acquisition for a Thoughtseize or an Inquisition and take Shardless. So play Cabal Coffers. Add a bunch of mana. Let's go searching our library for a card. Yeah, we'll take Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize our opponent. They have a land, so take Shardless from them. Pass the turn. So they can play a Windswept Teeth, and they can bolt us twice. The real concern is if my opponent is going to end up drawing some kind of, like, Bring to Light or Scapeshift effect would be the biggest problem. They play a Ketria Triumph, so they have a Fire and Ice. So tap Mazemind Tome, Cabal Coffers to the top. We untap. They might ice Cabal Coffers. They do not. They're going to do it on our draw step. So Erebos' Intervention. Let's go ahead and just gain a bunch of life. They can crack 2 fetch lands here to bolt us twice. We can scry with Mazemind Tome if we want to gain the life right now. I'm going to. Let's just gain the life in response and stay at 6. We do not need an Inquisition. That's going to the bottom. Okay. Opponent draws a card. We go to our main. Play Castle Lochthwain. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. So, real concerns would be like a Primeval Titan. Omnath is kind of a problem. Okay, opponent gains life. They still have 1 unknown card in hand. We untap. They're gonna ice again. Let's go ahead and dismember. I could activate Castle to draw. I would lose 2 life. I actually think it's worth it. We get a Worst Fears. And a Blood Chief's Thirst. Play Cabal Coffers, pass the turn. Mind controlling our opponent is potentially devastating. Okay, put a play Shardless Agent. They hit Wrenn and 6, so See the Unwritten is not their only 2-mana spell. Opponent can pick up a fetch land here. What did they pay? Oh, they cycled a land in response. Okay. They pick up their cycling land, and they pass. We untap. Another ice. Okay, I can't really do anything about that. We draw Baleful Mastery. So how much mana do we have? 8 mana. Let's go ahead and Worst Fears. Pass the turn. Take a look at what our opponent's got here. They draw a land. Alright, play Raugrin Triome, because I don't want them cycling it. Valakut trigger. We can have them shoot Shardless Agent, because we have a single answer for Renin 6. We'll just have them ping themselves. Alright. Pass the turn. We untap. We draw Consuming Vapors. So let's go ahead and Bloodchief's Thirst. And pass the turn. Opponent does have a Stomping Ground and a Plains in hand, so they can just bolt us. Opponent has decided they want to pass. We untap. We draw Consume Spirit. So presumably, this will be a lot of damage. I haven't seen any counterspells, and I doubt they're playing any because of the Cascade. They're not going to want to Cascade into counterspells. So we're back up to 18. Okay, opponent Shardless Agent. They had a Growth Spiral. They cast Growth Spiral. They don't put any lands on board. They play Dryad. They play a land, bolt us, and pass. They play a land, bolt us, and pass. Okay, we untap. We draw Liliana of the Dark Realms. So activate Cabal Coffers, play Liliana, uptick, get a swamp, play a swamp, activate Cabal Coffers, full price Baleful Mastery, kill Shardless Agent, then Consuming Vapors to gain life. Okay, pass the turn. I am really enjoying all this extra life gain right now. Okay, opponent plays a Misty. We untap. Consuming Vapors comes off suspend. Target our opponent. We draw Obnixilis Reignited. So uptick. Get a swamp. Play a swamp. Activate Cabal Coffers. Play Obnixilis. Activate Castle Lochthwain to draw a card. Inquisition. Uptick Obnixilis. We draw Maze Mind Tome. Hand check our opponent's last card. Supreme Verdict. Okay. Activate Cabal Coffers. Play Maze Mind Tome. Draw a card with Maze Mind Tome. Another Urborg. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent cracks Misty. They get an island. Interesting that it wasn't a mountain. I think we're dead to them top decking Escape Shift or a Bring to Light. Opponent, I think, cycled a land. Okay. They play a fetch land, I think. We untap. We draw Increasing Ambition, and so I'm pretty sure this game is over. Uptick Liliana to 6, get a swamp. Play a swamp. Uptick Obnixilis. Okay. Activate Coffers. Cast Increasing Ambition. And we just need something that'll deal 5 damage to our opponent. They assume that's going to find it, so. Alright. So versus our opponent. What do we want? I can see Cling to Dust being kind of important. Nile Spellbomb or Surgical Extraction might also be. We don't have any land destruction, I'm realizing. I probably should have a Ghost Quarter or 2 in the sideboard. Or even Break the Ice. Might be worth it. Or even like a Fulminator, really. I think I'm going to cut Consuming Vapors. And I think I'm only going to run 1 Cling to Dust. Oh, it might actually be better than Liliana the Last Hope. Thought Distortion's great, but unless we get to it quickly, it probably won't do anything. I suppose I could play Kalitas or Gonti. They are kind of a heavy mid-range deck. I'll play Gonti, and I'll play him over... He might be better than a Cling to Dust. Let's try it like that. I mean, I'm not above casting their Scape Shift. Just get, like, Urborg, Swamp, Quadra Cabal Coffers. Like, that'd be pretty sick. Alright, I can work with this, so I will. If we can draw Cabal Coffers, this hand goes from good to great. Opponent leads on Steam Vents tapped. We untap. Draw Consume Spirit. Play a Swamp. Thoughtseize our opponent. Opponent has See the Unwritten, Omnath, Damping Sphere, Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere is annoying, but it's not game-ending. It just means that we can't Coffers and we have to play the game normally, normal-ish. I'm gonna take Dryad. Pass the turn. Now, if my opponent doesn't cast See the Truth, they'll play Damping Sphere. So they use Windswept Teeth. They cast See the Truth, okay? That means Collective Brutality as an actual duress is probably worse. But they're also trying to hit another land, I think. We'll get Gaunty. Play Castle Lochthwain. And I am going to duress them. Take Veil. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Damping Sphere, plays a tap land. So unless we draw another Thoughtseize, they are going to play Omnath next turn. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. They play Wooded Foothills, they're going to fetch whatever they need for Omnath. They play Omnath and draw a card. We untap, draw Maze Mind Tome. Play Castle Lochthwain. Play Gaunty. Take Dryad, I guess. Pass the turn. Opponent casts a See the Truth. They play a Valakut and pass. We untap. Draw Inquisition. So... Inquire. They have Bring to Light. That's scary. Take Force. Then play Urborg. Play Dryad. And pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. We're probably just dead. We might not be just dead without my opponent having Dryad, but I think they fetch, and they get enough mana for Bring to Light. Don't they need 7 lands to kill us from 18 with Escape Shift? Oh, they have Valky. Okay. That makes sense. They play Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. They uptick, exiling Liliana of the Dark Realms. Alright. We untap. Draw Maze Mind Tome. Without Coffers, this is difficult. I could consume Spirit for 3. I can't kill Valky. While I can Mastermind's Acquisition for a spell for Valky, I think it's better to go to game 3. I'm also on a short time limit right now, which I didn't realize until a moment ago. So if I lose this, it's probably because I didn't play that out. If we're going to be forced to be playing more fairly, I'm going to bring in Dread Presence as a value engine. And I'm going to cut Brutality, even though I like the Duress. And I think a Blood Chief's Thirst. I will try it like this. Alright, we will be on the play. I would like to play first. We definitely have worse hands, but I don't think this hand does a lot versus our opponent. This hand is potentially much better. Just slow. Do I want a mulligan to Hand Hate? I think I do. Okay, this is way, way better. I'm going to keep this hand. We'll put back Wormcoil and a Swamp. Opponent mulligan to 6. So... Swamp. Inquisition. Opponent has See the Truth to Fairy. Take to Fairy. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a tap land and passes. We untap. Draw Worst Fears. Play Urborg. Play Maze Mind Tome. Scry. Swamp to the top. Pass the turn. We do need to draw some lands. Swamp Net lets us draw an extra card off Maze Mind Tome and then Inquisition. Opponent plays an island. They cast See the Truth. We untap. We draw a Swamp. Activate Maze Mind Tome. We draw Dread Presence. Play a Swamp. Inquire. Opponent has Shardless Agent and See the Truth, so take Shardless Agent. Pass the turn. Opponent casts See the Truth. If we can get to Worst Fears before our opponent plays their Bring to Light, We can bring to light for Scapeshift and sack all their lands. I'm going to scry because I want to draw another land and play Dread Presence here. Okay, we didn't get it. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a forest. We untap. Scry. Gain 4. Inquisition doesn't do it. We draw another Urborg. Play Urborg. Keep the untapped. Play Dread Presence. Pass the turn. Opponent cycles a Ketria Triome. They untap. They play a Windswept Teeth. Bring to light. So they're probably going to get Valky here. That's a problem, but we do have answers to it. If we can get a Baleful Mastery in our next draw, we'll probably be okay. They just exile Dread Presence. Okay, we untap. We draw Baleful Mastery. Unfortunately, we have to 2-mana Baleful Mastery, and we have to do it immediately. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Dread Presence. Why do they have Dread Presence? Oh, owned by me. Okay, they got it off of Valky. I was really confused for a minute. We draw Cabal Coffers. So play the Coffers. Play Dread Presence. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Valakut. They're going to shoot Dread Presence for 2, then they can fetch with Windswept Teeth and shoot it for 2 because we have Urborg out. Or they could play like Renin 6 and hit it for 1. They play a Valakut. Alright. So they can kill Dread Presence and shoot us for 6. Well, I'd really like a second Cabal Coffers here, so we can Worst Fears them. They may take away our ability to do anything, though, if they use all of their action this turn. So they hit us for 6. Then they play a Damping Sphere. That is about as bad as that turn could have gone. And only because we needed the extra mana from Coffers. Yep, we can't play Obnixilis now. We're dead to a land drop. Yeah, there's just nothing I can do. So, maybe this deck does need an answer to Damping Sphere. My initial thought process is it isn't, like, we're fine. But really, if our opponent has Damping Sphere followed up by a Fast Clock, that is actually an issue for this deck. Alright, we're dead. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty, welcome back for round 2. If we had a Cabal Coffers in the sand, I would consider keeping it, but I think 1 Thoughtseize against a blind opponent is probably not enough to keep. This, on the other hand, we have 2 pieces of Hand Disruption and a Tutor. I think I will. I'm going to put back Ugin. He's a long way off. So let's go ahead and lead on a Thoughtseize and see what we're dealing with here. I got some caffeine in between rounds, took a short break, because I was starting to drag really hard. So my opponent is playing Dauthi Voidwalker, Dam, Malakir Rebirth, and an Orzhov Grief Blink deck, so take Grief from them. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent plays Godless Shrine tapped. We untap, draw a Swamp. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent probably going to go for the... Oh, Stoneforge Mystic, okay. So they played their Plains, and they get a Sword of Fire and Ice. We untap and draw a Swamp. So we're going to 2-mode, Kill, and Duress. Ditching a Swamp. And we don't really care about the creature removal, so we're going to take Malakir Rebirth from them. Alright, pass the turn, and we're going to hope for a big Masterminds acquisition here. I suppose my opponent's going to go play Sword, because that way they can play Dauthi Voidwalker and then equip next turn. We draw an Urborg. So let's see, what is our best Masterminds acquisition target here? It might just be Coffers. I don't think any of our sideboard cards are particularly good right now. I mean, like, I could get Damnation. We're going to get hit probably at least once by the Voidwalker unless I tutor up an answer. Actually, you know what? Let's get Obnixilis reignited. Because he has both an answer that we can play next turn that gets around the red and blue protection, of course. All of our cards do. But he's also a value engine. So opponent plays Marsh Flats. Gets a swamp, plays the Voidwalker, and suits him up. We untap. We draw Cabal Coffers. Play a swamp. Let's go Obnixilis Reignited. Kill the Voidwalker. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Silent Clearing. They sack Silent Clearing. And pass. We draw Swamp. Uptick. We get a Thoughtseize. We give him the old hand check here. Opponent has Cauldra Complete and Ephemerate and Dam. Now, thank you. I don't remember. I responded to you in the YouTube comments on the last video. It's apparently pronounced complete. I thought it was like a weird Phyrexian word that they made up that was like a play on complete, but somebody said this is apparently an older spelling of complete, and I got an English lesson in the process, so... thank you. I appreciate that, the correction on that, because I had no idea, and it sounded like a good enough explanation for me, so... Opponent plays a Concealed Courtyard tapped, and they play Grief. We don't have anything in hand they can take. We untap. We draw Bloodchief's Thirst. Draw a card off of Obnixilis Reignited. So play a Swamp. Kill Grief. Pass the turn. I'm holding on to the Exile removal, because if they have one Cauldra, they may have more. Odds are it's just a Stoneforge target, but... We untap, we draw a Swamp. Uptick Mr. Nixilis. Play a Swamp. Hand check. Malakir Rebirth, Ephemerate, and Dam. Ephemerate, I think, provides the most possible value, so we'll take Ephemerate. Oh, they have Malakir Rebirth. I clicked the wrong card, but that's alright. The extra card draw right now is just absolutely carrying us. Vindicate. Well, alright. I can respect a main deck Vindicate. We untap. We draw Inquisition. Oh, might as well. Take Malakir Rebirth. Once again, don't really care about their removal. Pass the turn. And now it's a top deck fight. Opponent plays a no-value Skyclave Apparition. They're going to attempt to suit it up with Sword. All of our removal is black. No, I guess we could top deck an expensive spell that we want to play, so we'll just get rid of that now. Alright, untap. We draw Expedition Map. So play Map. Activate Map. Let's get Castle Lochthwain. Play it. And then let's go ahead and draw a card. I'm going to activate Coffers to do this. Because I could draw an expensive spell, and I did. So let's go ahead and Increasing Ambition. I think we just get Liliana the Last Hope here. Flashing back Increasing Ambition, we can get a whole bunch of stuff. So uptick Lily. Pass the turn. Opponent scoops. Increasing Ambition ends the game when you just have more mana than you could ever want, because you can always get the cards that win. Okay, I'm going to put one, probably both Damnations in the main, actually. Collective Brutality might be good here, but I think in the average case it's actually not going to be that great. Yeah, we'll put both Damnations in. I'll cut... I want to keep my Edict effect, so I'm keeping Consuming Vapors, Tribute to Hunger, Dreadhorde General. I think I'm going to cut Liliana of the Dark Realms. I kind of want to bring in Surgical Extraction, just because if they're, like, playing off of Grief and other stuff, we could actually, like, answer all of their cards with that, but it seems kind of cute and like a dead top deck in this matchup. I could bring in Kalitas or Gonti, just to have another threat. Odds are my opponent's going to board out a lot of removal, because we play, like, one main deck creature. But I think I'm going to save that for Game 3 if it happens. So, I'll see you guys in Game 2 of Round 2. Alright, we got Hand Hate, we got a Maze Mind Tome. I think we're going to try and keep. If my opponent Grief Ephemerates us, we're going to be sad, because they'll take all of our early plays, but... I suspect that might be happening. Okay, we get Thoughtseized. They take Maze Mind Tome. Thoughtseize Curse is real. Thoughtseize our opponent. They have Douthie Voidwalker and Douthie Voidwalker. Well, we don't really have an option, do we? Pass the turn. This opponent probably going to play Godless Shrine into the Voidwalker. We untap and draw Thoughtseize. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. I'm not going to scry until their end step, because this seems like the kind of deck that would be playing a Ghost Quarter, just to interrupt my draws. They play Concealed Courtyard, which is a land we did not know about. If this is... Okay, Vindicate, I mean, it's bad, but I was kind of thinking it was going to be the Spirit that I can't... I still can't think of the name of it for some reason. Okay, so my opponent is holding 2 cards in hand, and it has to be these 2 cards. There's no sense in thought seizing them this turn. Play Urborg, pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays Charming Prince. They're going to scry. They're still holding these 2 cards. They play a Bright Climb Pathway, which means the last card in their hand is Marsh Flats. They hit us for 3, we go to 12. We draw a Swamp, so play a Swamp. If I tutor for Cabal Coffers, and I play Cabal Coffers next turn, I would tap 1, 2, 3 lands to get 5 mana and have 2 left over, and I could play Obnixilis Reignited. I can't quite play Ugin, but I'd be well on my way there. We're taking 5 next turn, and we would have a kill spell. Alright, let's go ahead and Mastermind's Acquisition. I could get Damnation, which might be better in this situation. I think Cabal Coffers is going to be better, because it provides about the same level of value. So pass the turn. Opponent can sack their Dauthi Voidwalker if they don't attack with it, and cast Mastermind's Acquisition. If they did that... Okay. Opponent griefs us, so they're going to take Obnixilis, I think. We need to draw removal now. That was a pretty good top deck. Opponent... Oh, they take Ugin. Okay. They're going to sack Dauthi Voidwalker. Wait, you may play it without paying its mana cost? Whoa. I did not see that. I was like, this card's not good. I did not read the last... I thought this card was this card. Like, except instead of you may play it this turn without paying its mana cost, it's you may play it and spend any color of mana. I did not realize how good that card is. Holy crap. Okay, we untap. We draw Erebos' Intervention. So we play Cabal Coffers. Activate Cabal Coffers. Then Erebos' Intervention will kill Grief. So the one piece of good news I have is that Planeswalkers are the second easiest permanent type for us to kill. We do have Bloodchief's Thirst, which would do it. Baleful Mastery would do it. Opponent plays Sanctifier and Vec. They exile the black cards from our graveyard. They hit us for 2, down to 8. We untap. We draw Damnation. Play Obnixilis, and we really need to draw Baleful Mastery. Inquisition is not Baleful Mastery, and we die exactly. Alright. Dauthi Voidwalker is good. I misread that card, but as everybody knows, Kano doesn't read cards. Okay, so I guess that means we're playing Collective Brutality as an answer to the Voidwalker. That kind of makes me want to not play Ugin. But I don't think that's correct. I'll drop... I actually think the correct choice is to cut a threat. I guess I could cut Damnation. I'm going to cut Damnation. I have 1 in the deck still, and I could Mastermind's Acquisition for the other if I have to have it. We'll play first. This hand is good. We will keep. Man, maybe we should be playing Dauthi Voidwalker in this deck. If you can cast spells without paying their mana cost, like, it's actually a clock plus other stuff on top of that. So let's Thoughtseize, see if we can disrupt our opponent's hand. 2 Malakir Rebirths and a Stoneforge Mystic. Take the Mystic. Opponent now has a 5 land hand post-mulligan. Opponent plays a Godless Shrine tapped. We untap, we draw Worst Fears, play a Swamp, play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Concealed Courtyard and passes. Scry on our end step. Cabal Coffers to the top. We untap, draw Coffers, play a Swamp, pass the turn. If my opponent has Voidwalker and a way to make us discard, they can Worst Fears us, which would be it would be really good. But they have to wait until Voidwalker doesn't have Summoning Sickness. So, if that were the case. Opponent plays Esper Sentinel. Alright. So, draw a card. My opponent can Malakir Rebirth that card. We draw Consume Spirit. Untap. We're going to play Cabal Coffers this turn. Yeah, we're not going to scry. So play Cabal Coffers. Baleful Mastery gets entirely around Esper Sentinel's draw situation. Yeah, because it effectively just makes them draw anyway. And they can Malakir Rebirth it, but this doesn't kill it. This exiles it. So this is kind of like we just did the 2-mana mode anyway. Okay, opponent plays a Sanctifier and Vec, so they're going to exile our grave. That's fine. They play Marsh Flats, they crack Marsh Flats. Okay, they have the Voidwalker, so let's go ahead and scry here. Obnixilis Reignited. I think I do keep. They resolve the Voidwalker. We untap, draw Obnixilis Reignited. Play a Swamp. Activate Coffers, which takes us to 6 mana. And we're going to Consume Spirit to kill the Voidwalker. X2, so I can still crack Maze Mind Tome to draw. So opponent loses their Voidwalker to exile, and we pass. So they're holding 2 Malakir Rebirths still, which they can't target the Sanctifier because of. These cards are black. Opponent plays another Esper Sentinel. Then passes. They attack us for 2. We take 2 and go to 18. They're going to Vindicate our Coffers. So let's draw a card, gain some life. Then we untap. We draw an Inquisition. I can Mastermind's Acquisition, then my opponent draws a card. So I think what I'm going to do is take this moment to empty my opponent's hand. We will pay 1 to prevent this. Take Malakir Rebirth from them. Then we can take their other Malakir Rebirth from them. Okay, they are now Hellbent. We really just need to draw a land, and then we can start drawing extra cards. Opponent hits us for 3, we go to 19. Untap, draw a Swamp. Play a Swamp. Opponent will get to draw off of Obnixilis. Unless I Mastermind's Acquisition for Damnation here. That stops them from drawing, because I can pay the 1 for it. I could also just Mastermind's Acquisition for Cabal Coffers. I think we go the Obnixilis route this turn. We will not pay 1, they do get to draw. Uptick Obnixilis. If we downtick, he dies immediately. Whereas this way, he draws us at least 1 card. Collective Brutality is not bad here. So opponent gets to untap. They draw and they go to their main phase. They play a land, untapped. That means, I was going to say Sword Equip or Batterskull, maybe? They hit Ob down to 3. I mean, it could be Grief Ephemerate, at which point I'm pretty sure my entire hand would be going away. They shocked, huh? Okay, we're going to uptick Ob. Thoughtseize. So let's lead on Thoughtseize. I will pay. Opponent has Solitude. Okay. That's not too bad, actually. They don't exile anything. Their last card in hand is a Concealed Courtyard. Okay. Well, to keep Ob alive, we are going to kill Solitude, even though the Esper Sentinel is more annoying. Pass the turn. Consuming Vapors is an answer for Sanctifier. Okay, opponent plays Concealed Courtyard. Attacks Ob for 3. That's telling me they didn't draw Vindicate. They pass. We draw Maze Mind Tome. Uptick Obnixilis to 2. We get Cabal Coffers. That does make our life a bit easier. So play Cabal Coffers. Activate Cabal Coffers. And let's go Worst Fears. We're basically playing this like a mono-black Time Walk. And you know what? It's okay if you draw for this one, opponent. Alright. So we'll pass to our opponent's turn. They have Ephemerate. So they draw... a concealed courtyard. I think it's better to just ephemerate now. Okay, then we're not going to play any lands. So opponent's got nothing. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize. Uptick Obnixilis. We draw Wormcoil Engine. So opponent's holding 2 lands. We do need to do something here. So I have 8 mana still. I could Mastermind's Acquisition for Damnation and blow up the board. I have 8 mana this turn. I could play Wormcoil and Mazemind. I can Consuming Vapors. Let's cast Wormcoil Engine. That doesn't let them draw. So opponent can cast Ephemerate if they want to. They choose not to. They can play and cycle Silent Clearing. But without exile removal here, they're going to be a little bit of trouble. Okay, so they play Charming Prince and Voidwalker. They're going to scry. Okay, now Damnation is actually looking really good. So we untap. Draw Inquisition. Draw an extra card. There's Damnation. Do we cast Damnation first? I think we swing first, right? Attack for 6. Opponent will probably chump this. If they trade, I'd be surprised. So, Damnation. I will pay for it. I don't want them drawing extra cards. Actually, I should have checked to see if they scried to the top. And if they did, then I should have let them draw in Thoughtseize. Opponent untaps, they draw. Could be like Caldra Complete. Okay. They scoop, giving us the match. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, we're on the draw for round 3, and we only have 1 actual mana-producing land. I think I'm going to keep this, though, because we have 2 1-mana hand-hate spells. Alright, we draw a 3rd. Lead on Inquisition. Let's see what we're up against. Skyclave Apparition, Silverquill Silencer, and Solitude. Take the Silencer. We literally do not care about Fatal Push. That's one of the good things about playing a deck like this. A lot of the creature removal that other decks are forced to include is just completely dead against us. So opponent plays a Plains. They drew another Silverquill Silencer. I suppose they could name Inquisition. They choose Fatal Push. Alright, well, we drew a Swamp. So play a Swamp. Inquisition. We'll take Skyclave Apparition. Then we will go ahead and Thoughtseize you. Take Solitude. Pass the turn. This is one of the reasons why I play like 9 differently named kill spells. Specifically because there are decks like my opponent's where they will name the most commonly used spell. And as long as we have a differently named spell, they're going to have a bad time. It gets around Meddling Mage, it gets around Silverquill Silencer, it gets around cards like Surgical Extraction on Mordigo, though that's going to be less common. Okay. Swamp, please. That is not a swamp. If I have to Baleful Mastery, I will. I don't want to if I can avoid it. Opponent plays a swamp. They go to combat. They attack us for 3. We are going to take the damage this turn only, just to see if they play a bigger creature here. Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, let's see what they tutor up. If it's Batterskull, they're going to be able to play Batterskull, and there's not a lot we can do about it. Okay, I'm going to Baleful Mastery the 3-2. They get to draw an extra card, but we draw Mazemind Tome. Play the Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent is holding Fatal Push, Batterskull, 2 unknowns. They play Caves of Koilos, so they have 1 unknown in their hand. And it looks like they're passing this turn. So on their end step, let's go ahead and scry. Mazemind Tome 2 to the bottom. Untap. Scry again. Mastermind's Acquisition to the bottom. We really want to draw land. That is the next best thing. Play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to put Batterskull into play on our end step. They play a Marsh Flats. They play a second Stoneforge Mystic. Oh, we might be dead. because they have an active Stoneforge. So they can Stoneforge... Actually, they don't even have to. They can play an equipped sword. And that would be 9 damage exactly. Wow, alright, yeah. So it's turn 7, and we're on 3 lands. Honestly, I'm okay taking the loss, because we almost still won that. And we had Urborg on top of our deck. So we would have drawn Urborg and wouldn't have even had to crack Expedition map. We would have actually been fine. But, alright, so we're bringing in Damnation. And I think what we're doing is we're going to take out Liliana of the Dark Realms. I kind of want Dread Presence a little bit. I'm going to bring in a Dread Presence over... No, you know what? I don't think I am. I'll save Dread Presence for Game 3, like my previous logic. We'll run it back. Maybe this deck needs to be playing 23 land? Maybe the additional tutors and card draw that was added means that we need to be playing 1 more land than we currently are. I just really like Expedition map. Okay, we'll play first. And I did keep a really sketchy hand, so that was kind of on me. This hand is fine. It's not fantastic, but I think we've got to keep fine here. We've got 2 removal spells, both of which are pretty decent. Okay, opponent plays a Leyline, which we don't have an answer to, but we don't really need to. We could be playing Feed the Swarm out of the sideboard. Okay, opponent plays an Aether Vial, that's fine. We draw Cabal Coffers, so play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Okay, Aether Vial taken up to 1. They play a Windswept Teeth, they crack Windswept Teeth. They get a Godless Shrine untapped. They play a Stoneforge Mystic. Getting a Batterskull. Alright, we untap. We draw Maze Mind Tome. Play Urborg. Kill mode. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Aether Vial on 2. Alright, we untap. Draw Consuming Vapors. Play Cabal Coffers. This gives us enough mana to play Obnixilis. So play Obnixilis. This cannot be Skyclave Spirited, which is nice. Uptick to draw. We get Bloodchief's Thirst. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to vial in a 2-drop. That being Stoneforge Mystic. They get Cauldra Complete. Alright. They untap. So they're going to play a big, hasty boy. But we can Bloodchief's Thirst the Mystic and maybe even Consuming Vapors to get rid of Cauldra. It depends on what they have off of Vial, though. Okay. They attack Obnixilis down to 1. We untap and draw Ugin. Uptick to draw. Second Cabal Coffers. Alright. Bunch of mana. Bunch of mana. Play Ugin. -2 Ugin. Then pass. Opponent has no 3-drops to vial in. They take up Aether Vial to 4. I could have -4'd to get rid of the Leyline of Sanctity, I guess because we don't have any targets for Ugin's Uptick other than our own face. Opponent scoops. Okay, because they're playing Leyline, I'm going to drop Thoughtseize for our other Damnation. And do we have anything else that... Oh, I can't actually Consuming Vapors when they have Leyline. I just realized. So, note to self. Glad we weren't relying on that. I think I'm going to play... Nah, I was going to say Kalitas, but I don't think it's necessary. Let's run it back. If they mulligan really low to get to Leyline, we can just, like, any hand we have is going to beat that, because we're attrition-based deck here. I think this is an excellent opening hand, so I'm going to keep. Opponent starts Leyline, Marsh Flats, crack Marsh Flats, Godless Shrine, untapped. So Consuming Vapors is a dead card. They grief us, exiling Dam. They probably take Maze Mind Tome here. They could take Bloodchief's Thirst in theory if they have another hand hate spell. But if they don't have a way to flicker Grief... The fact that that's 2 triggers, and they can actually do this right now, is insane. Like, the fact that you can flicker in response to the trigger is really good. The fact that you can look, see what your opponent has, take it, and then, you know, respond later. Alright, lead on Swamp, pass the turn. I'm glad they took Consuming Vapors, because Consuming Vapors, you know, is not going to do anything. They take Blood Chief's Thirst. They kept a 1-lander. So play Urborg, because they already have black mana, pass the turn. They hit us for 3, we untap. Draw Consume Spirit. So play Cabal Coffers. This just adds 3, right? Let's go ahead and kill Grief. Hopefully they don't have a reanimation spell. Cool, pass the turn. Consume Spirit's just a removal spell that gains us a bunch of life. Maybe I should have no, I didn't have enough mana to Consume Spirit to kill there. So we just need to draw anything before our opponent does. And by anything, I mean anything that isn't a swamp. Literally, kill spells to stack up to buy more time is fantastic. Planeswalker threats obviously would be preferred. We get Thoughtseize, so there goes our 1 spell. But this is fine. Like, the longer our opponent bricks, the better chance we have of actually winning this game. Because the long game very clearly favors us. Pass the turn. We draw Erebos' Intervention, play a Swamp, pass the turn. So opponent knows we're holding Urborg, but we have no reason to play out a second one right now. Opponent draws, up to 7, and they pass. We draw Inquisition, which doesn't do anything. Go ahead and pass. Opponent draws up to 8. They finally find a land. They shock down to 13. They play Stoneforge. So they're going to go Tutor for something. It's probably Batterskull. It is. Alright. Let's go ahead and gain a ton of life. Untap. We draw Damnation. Not a bad spell to have in our pocket, but not relevant right now. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Concealed Courtyard. So we know they have all action in their hand. Opponent plays Silverquill Silencer. Naming Ugin the Spirit Dragon. We draw another Erebos' Intervention. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. They go to combat. Attack for 3. We'll take the damage because our life is so high right now. And we're about to have it be even higher unless they have another Flicker spell. They play another Stoneforge. Okay, they get Kaldra. Alright. I'm just going to plan on casting Damnation now. I'll save the -X for potentially a Kaldra off of like a 3rd Stoneforge or something. Tidalo Sculler. Alright, well we have 2 removal spells, so if they can flicker in response, they can take both removal spells, but they take Erebos' Intervention, and they pass. We untap, draw Baleful Mastery, kill Tidehollow, get back Erebos' Intervention. We might be here for a while. Opponent untaps, they draw. They are going to Vindicate Cabal Coffers. That is quite rude, but is not the end of the world. Like, we still have 6 mana, up to 6 mana if we need it for a single turn. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They play a Marsh Flats. They play a Naked Skyclave Apparition with no targets. Well, I'm not particularly scared of a 2/2, so we'll just leave it. We untap. We draw Mastermind's Acquisition. What is our best get for Mastermind's Acquisition? Could it be Coffers? It wouldn't be if my opponent had, Oh, we'll have up to 7 mana. Okay. It's definitely going to be something from our main deck. Tutors like this are very skill testing. So, we have up to 7 mana. I kind of want to get Wormcoil. Liliana Dreadhorde General also... Did I take her out? No. I'm going to take Liliana Dreadhorde General here because of the fact that my opponent is likely only going to play 1 creature next turn at most. And if they do, we can play her and Barter in Blood to answer both creatures. So, like, I'm expecting them to cast Batterskull here. That is annoying. So they should take Liliana. Like 100% they take Liliana here. They took Baleful Mastery. That's surprising. Do they have a Thoughtseize? They have a Flicker. Okay. That makes more sense. So now they take Liliana. They took Baleful Mastery because had we responded, or we would have been able to respond to the Flicker. They take Liliana. Alright. We untap. Well, they were going to hit us for 2, and then we untap. We draw a second or third Urborg. So just max value, kill Grief. This is going to be a problem if my opponent does get 2 more lands for Kaldra. But we just need to stop drawing lands at this point. We just, like, draw our threats and we'll be fine. Like, the Vindicate on Coffers was good, but it's not... It just stopped us from tutoring and playing our threat in the same turn. Which, I mean, that might be all they needed to win. They're going to hit us for 2, we go down to 25. We untap. We draw Ugin, which we can't play because we are a mana down. Pass the turn. If we draw any other land... Well, yeah, any land because... we've already Urborged. We've gotten all of our Urborgs. They hit us for 6. We go to 19. But it plays Tide Hollow Sculler. That sucks. We were 1 mana away from that. We draw Cabal Coffers. I am going to hide this Cabal Coffers in my hand because they can't... I don't think they have a way to make me discard it. So what we need to do is draw any removal spell, which is 99% of our deck. We get hit for 8 here. We go to 11. If we draw any removal spell, we can answer this whole board. Opponent gets a Sword of Fire and Ice. They do not play it. We untap. We draw Castle Lochthwain, which is not a removal spell. And unfortunately means we're dead. That's really frustrating. Any removal spell here, and we could play Coffers, make 1,000,000 mana, kill this, and then play Ugin to wipe the whole board. I can play Castle Lochthwain, but because I didn't play Coffers last turn, I cannot draw and play. Oh, that is really frustrating. We delayed for a bunch of turns, it's just our opponent had discard on any turn that it mattered. And they had just enough discard. So, that is a bit unfortunate. I mean, I guess the only thing we can do is play and activate Castle, but I don't think there's any 3-mana card here that does anything. Yeah. Okay. That is unfortunate. So, had I played Coffers, we would have gotten 1 card deeper. So I would have played Castle Lochthwain, and I would have played Cabal Coffers. Or I would have played Coffers, then Lochthwain. Then we would have drawn off of Lochthwain, which we would have activated Coffers first for 1/2, giving us 7/8 mana, floating 3. Then we would have played Mazemind, because that would be the card we drew, and we would have been able to play Wormcoil. The problem is, I think we still died because my opponent can play Kaldra for 2 mana. That might have bought us another turn, but I was really thinking to myself, I was like, if I play Cabal Coffers and my opponent has Vindicate, that drastically limits the number of options that I have. So, it is unfortunate, but that matchup was very close, and really, I think either of the matchups we've lost so far could have gone either way with slightly different play patterns. So I'll see you guys in round 4. Alrighty, round 4. I would like to play first. If this Ugin was a land, I would keep this on the spot, but it is not, so I'm going to mulligan. I almost click keep anyway. This hand has Thoughtseize and nothing else. I still think I'm going to keep this, because if we mulligan too low, we're going to run into the problem of not having enough resources anyway. Thoughtseize is also pretty good disruption versus a lot of decks. Except, I mean, possibly, maybe, Burn Zoo, Domain Zoo. So they're playing Tarfire, so they got Tarmogoyf. They have Ignoble Hierarch, Noble Hierarch, Lightning Helix, and Tribal Flames. Tribal Flames represents the most damage, but I think Ignoble Hierarch represents the most acceleration. I can take Noble Hierarch to take them off of white for Lightning Helix, but I think taking them off of the second red source from Ignoble Hierarch is the way to go. Pass the turn. So one of the things I was considering doing, we could play basic Snowlands, so we could play Dead of Winter, but I don't think that's good with the Urborgs and the Cabal Coffers not being Snowlands. So opponent started by using Verdant Catacombs and Noble Hierarch. We untap. We draw Cabal Coffers, play Urborg. This is bad because Urborg gives them like it gives them access to black, and Tribal Flames now counts the swamp. So maybe I should have just played a regular swamp. This is a sorcery. They hit us for 1. We untap. We draw Maze Mind Tome. So play a swamp. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent probably gonna like fetch up a Temple Garden or a Sacred Foundry and Helix us. Savai Triome. Okay, well I feel less bad about Urborging. They play a basic forest. They did use their Wooded Foothills. Tribal Flames, 3 mana. 4 mana, Bloodbraid Elf. Alright, that is concerning. Ignoble Hierarch. So they're going to get 2 Exalted triggers here. So they go to combat, and they're going to attack for 5. Alright. We take 5 and go to 12. So on their end step, let's Maze Mind Tome. Wormcoil Engine, hang on. 1, 2, 3 to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm actually going to keep Wormcoil on top. We'll only be a turn away from activating, or from actually playing a Wormcoil, and we'll get a Scry to find another land. So play Cabal Coffers. Add 5. Play Obnixilis Reignited, and we'll kill Bloodbraid. Pass the turn. My opponent has a lot of burn left over, though, and a lot of mana to cast it with. They're holding 10 points of burn. I actually don't know if keeping Wormcoil was correct with that. Maybe I have to look for Erebos' Intervention and gain life immediately. It really depends on what they play, I guess. So blue-green, this could be a Tarmogoyf. Blue-green-red, Shardless Agent, okay. They cascade into another Ignoble Hierarch. I'm not sure another good Exalted Mana Dork is what Modern needed, but, you know, them kooky Modern Horizons 2 folks. The designers of the set. Tribal Flames? They're going to Tarfire Obnixilis Reignited. Okay, so they're still holding 8 points of burn. There's no attacking being done this turn, so Maze Mind Tome on their end step. Other Maze Mind Tome to the bottom. We untap, Maze Mind Tome again. Another Obnixilis Reignited. So if we keep this and use it to kill Shardless Agent, they can still attack us for 3 and then burn us for 8? Oh, that's really risky. I think we're better off trying to draw a land or removal spell. There's the land. Play the swamp. Play Wormcoil. Pass the turn. They untap. We should be able to survive just this turn, at least. Unless they drew, like, another Tribal Flames, at which point we're going to be dead. Because, like, Tribal Flames, Lightning Helix. Oh, they only have... I guess they do have 3 red mana. So opponent, green, green. What do they got? Scion of Draco. Alright. So, we untap. We draw. Swamp. Play a swamp. Activate Coffers. Draw a card, gain some life. Another swamp. So let's Increasing Ambition. And I can get a removal spell. Otherwise I need to get a 2-mana spell of some kind that's going to be good. If I get a 2-mana spell, I want an instant speed spell that can kill stuff. Shardless Agent has hexproof, so we can no longer Baleful Mastery it. Although if they attack, they might attack with Scion of Draco. I think I have to take Baleful Mastery to stay alive. Go to combat, because attacking with Exalted is still more efficient for them than attacking with multiple creatures. Attack for 6. Opponent jumps. They float red. Oh, and then they're going to burn their own guy. Okay, that way they gain life, and we don't. That makes sense. Pass the turn. Apologies. I, like, suddenly got really, like, coarse throat thing going on. I hope I sound a little better now. Okay, so pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw. Okay, they go to combat. They're attacking us for 6. So declare no blocks. Baleful Mastery, Scion of Draco. They do get to draw a card out of this deal, which may not be the greatest for us. But it does save us 4 damage. It's basically like paying 2 mana, negating a Boros Charm, and they get to draw an additional card. So, opponent blue-green. Another Shardless Agent. They hit Snapcaster. They can Snapcaster Tarfire. They could Snapcaster Lightning Helix and still cast it. Okay. So Snapcaster Tarfire. They resolve Shardless Agent. And I guess they just Tarfire our face. And they play Seal of Fire. Okay. So that's to stop us from gaining life off of Wormcoil again. We draw a Thoughtseize. We know the last card in their hand is Tribal Flames. So, what do we do? How much mana do we have? 6? Can make that... Oh, hang on. Play a Swamp. Now let me check. We have 11 mana, so we can flashback Increasing Ambition and get something we can cast for 3. So we want to get something we can use to stay alive, and then something we can use to end the game. So I think what we do is get Ugin, and I think Collective Brutality, actually. So then we can go to combat, attack for 6. They'll chump with Noble Hierarch and shoot their own Noble. Probably. They could chump with like Snapcaster if they wanted to go the Exalted route. I'm so sorry. I don't know where this frog in my throat just came from, which is horrible because I'm planning on streaming here in a little bit. Opponent is deep in the tank about this attack. They chump with Shardless. And they kill Shardless so we don't gain life. So then we're going to 2-mode, kill Duress, and we'll kill... No matter what I kill, I'm taking 4 next turn. Let's kill the Snapcaster. We'll ditch this Thoughtseize. They get rid of Tribal Flames. Pass the turn. Now, I don't think there's any singular card that could kill us this turn. If they Bloodbraid into Tribal Flames, that would take us to 2. Shardless Agent into Snapcaster. They get Snapcaster Tribal Flames and do 5 to us. Then hit us for 4. But that's the end of this game. Unless I'm really doing the math wrong. They go to combat, hit us for 4, we go to 3. Untap. We draw Worst Fears. Play Ugin. -3. Go to combat. And the game is over. Alright, so versus our opponent's deck, I want Dread Presence, Kalitas, Damnation, and possibly Cling to Dust, because they are running Snapcasters. What do we drop here? I think Worst Fears is actually not that great against our opponent. In the average scenario, it's bad. It's only good if we're already winning. And my opponent's probably going to be Hellbent by the time I could actually cast it. I'm going to cut a couple of Thoughtseize, because I don't... Actually, 3 Thoughtseize, because I really don't want the early life loss that much. Consuming Vapors, while good in this matchup and a form of life gain and card advantage, I think I'm actually going to cut, because on average it's going to gain me like 1 life. I think Dread Presence is just going to be better. And I'll cut 1 Obnixilis, and possibly I should cut Liliana Dreadhorde General. Now let's try that. Okay, I like this hand. We've got early Hand Hate, early Removal, and Collective Brutality, which is one of our best cards against a deck like our opponents. I think they're almost 100% going to lead on a Mana Dork because they play 8. So... Alright, that made our decision for us. Erebos' Intervention is a great top deck, so let's go ahead and Inquisition. Opponent has Territorial Kavu, Lightning Bolt, Shardless Agent. So we need to save Erebos' intervention to kill Scion of Draco. Territorial Kavu we can kill with Bloodchief's Thirst. It does not have haste. Shardless Agent I think represents the most danger here. So we'll take Shardless Agent. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Misty Rainforest. They'll get a Tri-land probably. Like Savai Triome. Then they can shock Temple Garden and play a 4/4 or something. Who knows? Okay, they fetch up a Steam Vents. They're probably going to shock Temple Garden to play the Kavu. Okay. They shock Temple Garden. They play the Kavu. We untap. Draw Dread Presence. Play a Swamp. Bloodchief's Thirst. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. I would really like to draw Cabal Coffers. But it plays a Stomping Ground. Scion of Draco still costs like 8. No, it doesn't. It costs a lot less than that. It's 2 less per. But it plays a Tarmogoyf. We untap. We draw Cabal Coffers. So, play Urborg. And we will pass the turn. Opponent's going to bolt our face. They're holding Scion of Draco, 2 unknowns. They go to combat. They're going to hit us for 5. Alright. They go to 12. White, green. They play Gaddock Teague. That's pretty annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Non-creature spells, mana value 4 or greater. That stops us from casting Erebos' intervention, but... so play Cabal Coffers. I don't really want to escalate, so we're just going to kill Gaddock Teague with Collective Brutality. Gaddock Teague is a really, actually good counter against like Baleful Masteries and such. Maybe we want to put some Collective Brutalities in the sideboard to help with these decks. We just have to be careful about what we discard and how. So opponent untaps. I actually should have played the Swamp instead of the Coffers, just in case my opponent did have a another big threat. We untap and draw Mazemind Tome. So I can play a Swamp, and that gives me 7 mana. There is an instant in the grave. So yeah, Swamp. Really hope they don't have Skullcrack. A little bit awkward there, because Coffers wants us to play lands before we play creatures or anything else. And Dread Presence wants to be on the board before we play lands. Opponent untaps. Scion of Draco will be an issue at the current juncture, because they have all 5 basic types, which means Scion of Draco costs 2. Yep. And Ugin is not an answer to Scion of Draco. They're going to attack us for 2. We untap. We draw Cling to Dust. Alright, so I can Cling to Dust a couple of times if I wanted to. I can either use it to gain life. I'm taking 6 at minimum. I think what I do is Cling to Dust their Lightning Bolt to draw a card. Mazemind Tome. Okay. I was hoping to hit a land. We can play Dread Presence and then play Mazemind Tome. But if they have a Tribal Flames, we're dead. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent Bloodbraid Elf, cascading into Shardless Agent. Shardless Agent, cascading into Tribal Flames, and we're dead. Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. Okay. Well, Cascade's a really good mechanic. I think we run it back. We just have to be really careful about Gaddock Teague. There are very few things in our deck that can actually kill him, which might mean I should be playing Thoughtseizes. I'm actually going to run 1 extra Thoughtseizes over a Baleful Mastery. Alright, I would like to play first. I mean, Erebos' Intervention is good. We have a lot of mana. If we draw Cabal Coffers, this hand's awesome. We'll try keeping. We can Fog Tarmogoyf if we play in, like, with Erebos' Intervention if we need to. Lead on Swamp, pass the turn. But it leads on Verdant Catacombs and passes. Maze Mine Tome is excellent. Play Maze Mine Tome. Opponent cracks Verdant Catacombs. Gets a Savai Triome tapped. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. Forest. They play a Tarmogoyf, so we scry. Cabal Coffers to the top. Untap. We draw Cabal Coffers. If I cast Erebos' Intervention, I'm pretty sure this stays alive. So, play an Urborg. Pass the turn. Opponent draws. They go to combat. Attack us for 1. We take 1, go to 19. They play another Tarmogoyf. Okay, so let's draw an extra card. Wormcoil's pretty good. Untap. We draw Maze Mine Tome. Play Cabal Coffers. That puts us up at 5. Then we will pass. So we can Erebos' Intervention X4 to take out a Goyf and do a bunch of, and gain a bunch of life. Opponent shocks a Breeding Pool. Shardless Agent. Okay, let's see what they cascade into. Lightning Helix. Alright, so I'm going to respond by killing a Goyf. Okay, that puts us back to 20 and 20. And they attack for 3. We take 3. Go to 17. Stop on my opponent's end step, we'll scry. Thoughtseize to the bottom. Untap. Scry. Gain life. Up to 21. Damnation. I think I keep Damnation. So we draw Damnation, we play a Swamp. That puts us up at a lot of mana. Play Wormcoil. Pass the turn. Wormcoil can comfortably survive Damnation in the form of the tokens. If they waste enough burn on Wormcoil to kill it, then that's a whole bunch of burn not going to our face. If they have a path, they charge up Coffers. They're attacking with Shardless Agent, so we'll block. We gain life. An opponent Tribal Flames to kill Wormcoil. Alright, we untap. We draw Inquisition. How much mana do we have? Just enough to kill Goyf. I was hoping we'd have enough to Inquisition on top of this, but unfortunately we do not. Kill Goyf. Go to combat. Attack for 6. I mean, being at 36 life versus the Tribal Flames deck seems pretty sweet. Opponent Shardless Agent into Territorial Kavu. Into another Noble. Alright. We untap. Draw another Erebos' Intervention. So, go to combat. Attack for 6. No blocks by the opponent. Interesting. So, hand check. Lightning Helix, Snapcaster Mage. Take Helix. Activate Coffers. Damnation? Then play Maze Mine Tome. Honestly, I just want another Coffers at this point. We're at 40 life versus the aggro deck, and we just Damnationed. This is where this deck wants to be. Opponent top decks a Shardless Agent into a Gaddock Teague. This is not where we want to be. We have to find a kill spell for Gaddock Teague. Thank God, it's on top of our deck. That was almost extremely bad. We untap, draw Blood Chief's Thirst. Kill Teague. Activate Coffers. Increasing Ambition. And honestly, I think I'm just going to get another Coffers. Play Coffers. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. And scoops. Nice. Alright, I will see you all in round 5. Hopefully we can 3-2. Alright, we are on the play for round 4, and round 5, and this is basically the perfect hand. So we're going to keep, especially against a blind opponent. We have turn 1, Disruption, turn 2, Maze Mine Tome, turn 3, Cabal Coffers is online. and we just need to start drawing lands, and we even have a Planeswalker to follow this all up with. We have Consume Spirit, which we can use as removal if we need to. So let's start by seeing what our opponent, who mulliganed to 6, is up to. Manamorphose, Lava Spike, Street Wraith. Well, take Manamorphose. This looks kind of like all-in Blitz, maybe? Lead on Prismatic Vista for a mountain. Cycle Street Wraith. Lava Spike? Lava Spike. You got it. We draw a Swamp. So, play an Urborg. Play a Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play an Arid Mesa. They crack an Arid Mesa. Bloodbraid Marauder Cascade. Alright. Hitting a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Alright, well. Maze Mind Tome. Baleful Mastery. I actually might need, so I'm going to leave that on top. We untap. Play a Swamp. And I think we're going to go ahead and Baleful Mastery to get rid of the 1/1 here. Pass the turn. When it untaps, they draw. They go to combat. Attack us for 3. We go to 14. They play Scalding Tarn. They crack Scalding Tarn. Get a mountain. So this is mono red Delirium Burn. Alright. Maze Mind Tome on our opponent's end step. Thoughtseize to the bottom. We untap. Draw Thoughtseize. Play Cabal Coffers. I think if I Consume Spirit their guy, they actually just kill him with Seal of Fire in response. So let's draw an extra card. Increasing Ambition is nice. Alright, let's try the Consume Spirit for 1. Okay, we go to 15. Opponent is at 15. They untap. They play another Seal of Fire. We untap. We draw Cabal Coffers number 2. And that probably means this game is over. Play Cabal Coffers. Activate. How much mana is this in total? 9? So draw off of Maze Mind Tome. Go down to 7, gain 4. We draw a Swamp. Thoughtseize our opponent. Take a Lava Spike. That saved us 1 life. Then we play Liliana Dreadhorde General. Make a zombie. Pass the turn. And now they have the option of using all of their burn to kill Liliana. Or throwing it all at us and only taking us to half our current life total. Game's over. Mono red Delirium Burn. I don't know if that's better than just regular mono red. We're going to bring in Kalitas. Probably going to bring in Cling to Dust and Dread Presence. I don't know if I'm going to need Damnation. It seems like they have a lot of non-creature spells, and they're probably not going to go wide enough that our kill spells matter. I'm going to cut Dismember. I will cut an Obnixilis and Liliana of the Dark Realms. Worst Fears is also going to be bad here, and I think I'll cut 1 Baleful Mastery, and we'll try it like this. Alright, so if we draw a single other land, this hand is great. We have an Expedition map, we have a Thoughtseize. I think this is worth risking. Opponent leads on Sunbaked Canyon into a Soulscar Mage. They did mulligan. Urborg makes this hand amazing. Lead on Swamp, play a Thoughtseize. We're taking Bloodbraid Marauder. Pass the turn. Opponent plays their other Sunbaked Canyon. Manamorphose, so this will get them to Delirium if they just dump their hand here, which I'm pretty sure they're incentivized to. They play Seal of Fire, they bolt our face, take us to 15, and then hit us for 4. But now they only have 1 card left, and they only have a 1/2. We draw Consume Spirit, play Urborg, play Maze Mind Tome, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw. They cycle Sunbaked Canyon. They play a Scalding Tarn. They fetch for a mountain. Then they Lava Dart us down to 10. Then they flashback Lava Dart, taking us to 9. They go to combat, attack us for 3. We go down to 6. Scry on their end step. Urborg to the bottom. I do want lands, but I don't want a second Urborg. Scry on our upkeep. Thoughtseize to the bottom. Not a huge fan. We draw another Maze Mind Tome. Play Coffers. They flashback Lava Dart, so I think we just go for the... Oops. If I activate Coffers, it's the same as tapping here. We'll just kill their Soul Scar. The only way they get around this is if they have Gut Shot. We still gain 2 life, even if they do. We go up to 8, pass the turn. Next turn, the plan is to scry on our upkeep, try and find a land expedition map for another Coffers. So opponent plays an Arid Mesa, they crack it immediately, get a mountain. They Cleansing Wildfire Coffers, this is fine. They draw a card. So we untap, scry, Castle Lochthwain. I'm actually going to keep. We draw the land, play the castle, play Maze Mind Tome, and pass the turn. I doubt in 2 cards they have 6 damage. Unless they're holding exactly Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt. I say 6, even though we're at 8, because they have Seal of Fire. So a 2-mana spell, they're going to Lava Spike us. Oh no, do they really? Unbelievable! Wow. Wow! Alright, well, I could have Consumed Spirited or something. I was thinking about playing Dread Presence, although that wouldn't have mattered. Okay, well, oh, you know what? I guess I'll have Baleful Mastery over a Thoughtseize. Is there anything else I have that's better than a Thoughtseize? I guess Nile Spellbomb and Surgical is probably better. Yeah, I'll bring in the other Surgical, too. Keeping them off Delirium actually seems pretty helpful. I would like to play first. Yes, I will keep this. If they start Dragon's Rage Channeler, we can kill it with Erebos' Intervention on 2. Unless, of course, they assemble Delirium immediately. Play a Swamp, pass the turn. We do have Maze Mind Tome, so we can find more Swamps / Urborgs. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn, they crack it, they get a Mountain. They cycle Street Wraith. And they do play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Draw Castle Lochthwain, play a Swamp, and I'm going to go with the kill this before it becomes a problem. Pass the turn. Castle Lochthwain, unfortunately, does not count as a swamp for Cabal Coffers. They play a Soul Scar and a Swift Spear, hitting us for 1 down to 20. We draw a Swamp. Okay, play a Swamp. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They draw Manamorphose. Alright, this does not bode well for us. Add red. Manamorphose. Alright. Add red. Cycle a Street Wraith. Seal of Fire. That's 10 damage. Lava Spike for a total of 15 damage on turn 3. Wow. Okay. We go to 7. I mean, they have Seal of Fire, but... Maze Mind Tome. Increasing Ambition to the bottom. Unfortunately, you're not what we need. Untap. Maze Mind Tome. Cabal Coffers number 2. I don't think we keep the second Cabal Coffers. We draw Obnixilis. So... I mean, we got a Consuming Vapors, but there's a good chance we're dead. Consuming Vapors. They sack a creature, we go up to 9. But if they have another... Like, if they just have 2 Lightning Bolts, I think we're dead. And there's a good chance they have 2 Lightning Bolts. I even took the safe route and killed the 1-drop immediately. Maybe I was supposed to hang on to Erebos' Intervention and try and get more value out of it, but them surveilling that whole time and we would have just died. Oh, okay, never mind, we're dead. Frustrating. That really is frustrating. We spent 0 life on our mana base and cast spells that exclusively gained us life. We just didn't do it fast enough. Alright. So, how does this change what we're doing here? I still think this deck was fine. All of the matchups we were in felt beatable. It really did not feel that bad. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new copy of this deck. And we're going to change this to V3. And I'm going to make the changes that I think we should make. So one of the problems that we're having is a lot of what we do doesn't happen early enough. Gaddock Teague is a huge issue for this deck. It feels like we have... I actually don't like Dread Presence at all. So one of the things I'm going to do... I'm going to add 2 Collective Brutalities to the side. Because we just need more stuff that kills things early. I think we can be fine cutting a Thought Distortion. I don't know that we need 2. Versus Control, we're going to be tutoring and stuff. I think I do want another Blood Chief's Thirst. For the same reason. That, like, we're just going to need this critical mass of kill spells versus aggressive decks. There's got to be a good... another good black creature with control or another good controlling black creature that's got lifelink over Kalitas. Cavalier of Night probably comes down a little bit too late. I could play Chancellor of the Dross, because we could actually cast this guy, and starting off with a free Lightning Helix against your opponent might actually be kind of reasonable. We could just play Batterskulls or more Worm Coils. I'm not sure. Another thing we can do with this deck is we can make it an Orzhov deck. We can actually run things like Vindicate. We could play Leyline of Sanctity. It gives us access to slightly better removal. The thing is, if we're playing Orzhov, we're not playing Castle Lochthwain, and we're playing exclusively Swamp Duels. So we'd be playing Godless Shrine. We would be softer to Blood Moon than we are right now. But that would give us things like Vanishing Verse, which might be better than Baleful Mastery, or could supplement Baleful Mastery. Another thing we can do is we can drop the curve a lot, and we can play a lot of the cheap Liliana Planeswalkers, and we can play the Liliana Edict effect, because it doesn't target, it forces our opponent to discard if we control a Liliana, and then we keep the Cabal Coffers plan in to cast a few really, really big spells. So, like, basically what I'm suggesting is, to play a version like that, we would cut this pile of cards for cheap Lilianas, like the 3-drop Lilianas, possibly even Liliana the Dark Realms. Cut this pile of cards, add more Liliana the Last Hopes, add more Liliana the Veils, and then we can use Cabal Coffers to cast Erebos' Intervention, to cast Consume Spirit, or to Mastermind's Acquisition for something huge out of the sideboard. And, like, then we don't even need Cabal Coffers for the main deck. It's just effectively another Swamp, or lets us play our stuff faster. Maze Mind Tome, I'm a little bit sad because we're investing a lot of mana to draw cards, but we have to do that before we have Coffers. Its scrying is fantastic, though, so I don't know. This is where I would start. Yeah, the only real problem is if our opponent can waste our resources in a way that life gain doesn't matter. So, like, in versus the Grief Flicker deck, I think that's probably our worst matchup, because they can take all of our threats out of our hand, leave us with nothing but removal, and then just beat us down eventually. And they can even protect their important creatures with their Ephemerates, because, you know, we target it with a kill spell and then they blink it, they get more value out of it. Like, I think that deck, if that deck becomes big, is a deck that this deck we'd have to tech to beat. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I gotta run. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The last few times have been earlier than that. By the time you're watching this video, I am probably on the road driving. I will be unreachable for a few days. I'll have videos pre-recorded and uploaded. But I have a 22-hour drive ahead of me, split into 2 parts. So, alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this content, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of June. If you want to have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description below. Thank you all.